Hey, I want to let everybody know that's waiting. We are obviously waiting until the top of the hour to get started for our Q&A session, but I just want to let everybody know that's here, that you are in the right spot, and we will get started in about 6 minutes. So I will talk to you soon. All right, this is the InventTribe Q&A session. I wanted to let everybody know that's piling in, that this is the right spot. We're going to start in about 3 or 4 minutes. And so for those that are already in, you can even start typing in your questions right now to make sure they get answered. So do type them in. We will wait, though, another 3 or 4 minutes before we get started so we can let everybody in. But for everybody's already in, do start typing in your questions. All right, all right. It's the top of the hour, so I wanted to get rolling. And so I wanted to start off by welcome everybody. Let's make sure I'm live. All right, cool. So this is InventTribe Q&A. We're going to talk about licensing deals, how to get your invention on the market, paying your royalties, and I wanted to give everybody here who has not met me or worked with me a little bit of background. I always think it's very important to know and understand who you're taking advice from, so you're not following the path of somebody who hasn't been there before. And that's, I guess, for anything in life, you know, when you're listening to anybody's advice, understand where they're coming from and what they've done. But I have been in the game of licensing for 12 years now. I've licensed 5 of my own products, and I've coached over 170 inventors how to license their own products. And so I've been around, I've done it myself, and I've gotten very good at teaching others how to get their products licensed. And so there's very little of the process that I haven't been involved in, if any. I'm not sure yet. I haven't found a part in recent years that I haven't been a part of. So do fire your questions away. I guess I really specialize in the deal aspect of it. I do well with marketing, but I guess my strong suit or what I do best is deal making, negotiation, how to get the best terms. So do fire away, bring the questions. I already have one from Bev, and so I want to get started on that. And those that are also watching on social media, Facebook, you can type in a message if you'd like to actually get into the Zoom room where you can really ask questions. So if you'd like to get in, let us know, shoot us a message, and we'll shoot you a link to get into the Zoom room. And so let me read off Bev's question. Bev says, thanks for doing this. My question is, I wouldn't be surprised if my licensee chooses to drop my product. Not to scare people, but that does happen from time to time. And although they have produced a half working prototype and some 3D models in the last 3 years, but I do have minimum guarantees starting in 3 years, which is in 3 months' time. Should I remind them that this date is fast approaching, or should I say nothing until then, or should I just not bring it up at all ever? Well, Bev, so this is an interesting point. And to kind of give everybody a little bit more information on this, Bev is one of my students that I worked with and helped her put this deal together. And the company had a little bit of a difficult time manufacturing and figuring out how to manufacture it right. And so that's why this timeline is a little bit longer than most, right? Most of the time when you license a product, you're on the shelf selling within, usually 12 months. Bev's at 3-year period. So it's been a little bit more of a rocky road. So with them, I would get an update on where they're at. What's going on? Is this going to become reality, or is this going to get dropped? 3 years is a long time to wait, and I know you've been super patient and a great resource for them. And so I guess I would reach out to them, see where they're at, right? You're not gonna kind of like pull this deal from them if they're on the edge of putting this thing on the shelf, right? We don't want to do that to them, because then you pull it from, you're just going to go start this process over with somebody else. So I'd reach out to them and engage them, see where they're at first, and make judgment calls based on that. If they can't give you any concise answers on like, hey, we're almost there, or hey, we're like making this type of progress, then bringing up the fact that the 3-year minimum guarantee is about to start, it will just push them over the edge in terms of dropping the project. Because, and I've had this in a lot of licensees, and this is always very surprising to people at times, is that those minimum guarantees are not a guaranteed payment to you. They're guaranteed for them to keep the intellectual property. And what that means is they can't keep Bev's product unless they start to pay. And so a lot of the times, if they've run into all these issues and are not necessarily going to make it on the shelf, well, then they might at this point give it back. But if Bev engages her licensee and says, what's going on? How can I help? How can I bring this forward with you guys? That's going to send a very different message than, hey guys, our 3 years is up, minimum guarantees are going to start, so let's start paying me. Because then they're going to say, all right, Bev, we've worked our butt off on this and it hasn't worked out in 3 years, so here you go, here's it back. Which that's not necessarily the path forward that we want as inventors, because then you got to start that whole process over with somebody else. And so I would say, engage them, have a conversation, see where they're at, and then make a judgment call. If it's something that you do want to kind of get back, then I would use that 3 years to kind of say, all right, it's kind of time. And Bev's typing in the chat box with some more information. I tried my best to engage them for 3 years and offered my help every step of the way. I can't see to push the river. I don't want this back. I want them to get it on the shelf. I agree 100%. Let's get it on the shelf. So I think doing a phone call, if you haven't had a phone call with them in a while, is a great way to engage them and get them moving forward. So, you know, put the person back in the product, which is you, Bev. So set up a call or email them and say, hey, let's, you know, are we able to do a call on this and really find out where our next steps are to move this thing forward. I hope that helps. Christian, next question. Christian, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for joining in. I really appreciate the people that are, you know, spending the hour here with us and do type in all the questions that you have. I have a great invention. How do you get inside to the right person to see your idea? Great question. My best advice is to just call them up. You know, everybody has this perception that we need to know who it is to pitch your product to, right? Who's the right person? It's not who, it's what companies. So you're going to call the company, just call their 1-800 number and talk to them in general. Because I've had students, and this was some time ago, I had a student that was, they had this idea that they had to reach out to an individual. They had to pick somebody and say, that's the person I'm going to reach out to. So they went on LinkedIn, they found somebody with what they thought was the right title, and they spent about 3 months calling, emailing, following up, trying to get a hold of this person. And then once they finally got a hold of them, that person said, oh yeah, we look at ideas. This person over in this department takes care of that. And so if they would have taken the advice right from the beginning and just called the company and said, hey, you know, do you guys look at new products and who takes care of that? Then they would have gotten put in touch with the right person. So Christian, what you do is you just call them up and say, hi, my name is Christian. I'm a product developer. Do you guys look at new products? Oh, you do? Great. Who would I speak to about that? And they put you in touch with the right person. And it might not be the case that they like put you right in front of them, and the fact that they can get and like respond to your emails, respond to your calls right away, but they give you the person to talk to. And that's the most important part, is that name. Then you can then reach out to that person via LinkedIn. You can call them, you can leave a voicemail. You know, you're being pleasantly persistent. You're not being a pest, but you're following up with them until they reach back out to you and engage you and say, yes, it's appropriate to send a product idea. And so you're not finding the who within the company, you're finding the company and you let them tell you who is the right person to speak to. And Christian had a follow-up question. So I hope that answered your first question. He said, can I approach a company without a prototype? Yes, you can. And I know that's contradictory to some people's wisdom or some people's process. But what I have found is that if you spend all your time building prototypes and filing patents, you're never pitching what companies actually need, which is the benefit. So my approach is, a lot of the time, not always, but sometimes I will put together a pitch and convey the product and see if a company is excited about the benefits that I'm presenting to them. And if they are, then they'll engage you. They'll reach back out and say, Christian, we're interested in your product, but we need to see a prototype. I say, great, let me get on that. But where things fall apart is inventors that spend 3, 6, 9 months, sometimes a year, sometimes 2 years perfecting their prototype. And once they've perfected it, then it's their perfect little baby and it can't be presented to the world because it can't be stolen. And that's where inventors run into trouble, is they've spent so much time, energy, money on their prototypes to perfect them. And they become so attached to them because they've spent so much time with them that they don't want to take them out to the world. And then you get stuck in this bubble with your product and you can never monetize. And so my approach has always been, see if the company's interested in my product, see if the company is excited about the benefits that I'm presenting to them. And if that is the case, then they'll ask for a prototype. And I say, great, I'd love to make you a prototype, especially if you're interested, right? Then you can invest a lot of that time and energy into getting the product on the shelf with the company. So Christian, I hope that answers your both your questions, and do follow up with any other information if you need. Sharon, and let me jump over to the chat. See, I've got 2 spots where questions are coming in, chat and Q&A. So let me read through the chat real quick. An offer from Bev to delay this. 1 more year might help to keep licensing engaged. Thank you, Keith, helping Bev here. Hope I can get them to get my idea off the ground, even if it takes much longer than expected, with a pandemic in the middle here too. Yes. Yeah, and Keith, thank you. Yeah, very frustrating to be stuck in the middle of a deal where it's not coming true. Back to Sharon. Sharon had a question in the Q&A box, and keep these questions rolling. I'm gonna keep trying to hot seat them and bring you the good stuff. So I emailed you a question earlier today, wanting to know what one could expect to pay a lawyer to complete a licensing contract. Sharon, depends. And make sure you send it to the right email. I'm not sure if I saw it, if you had emailed me the question, but David@InventTribe, if you had follow-up questions for anybody. And Sharon, you're going to have to give me some fill in. So if you want them to complete a licensing contract, are they negotiating it? Are they writing it from scratch, or are they just proofreading a licensing contract that you're working on? Proofreading a licensing contract that I helped craft with the licensee, usually it's around $350. Above and beyond that, they usually charge hourly, $200, $250 an hour is usually a licensing contract attorney's rate, sometimes $300 depending, and they're going to charge hourly. So to just basically write up a licensing contract, you can expect around $1,000, maybe $1,500, depending on the complexity of it. And then to actually negotiate, they're just going to be hourly, and they're going to be on the phone calls with you. That's why it can get very, very expensive to have a licensing contract lawyer along with you on every single call. So Sharon, I hope that answers your question. If you have any more information to fill in for me, that'd be awesome. Dennis. Why do licensees assume you have a mold and production ready? And how to get a licensee to still work with you to get into production and not end up another buyer? I love that question, because it does happen. And Dennis, this might be a tip of the hat to your marketing material, because maybe they look at your marketing material and say, wow, that looks like a product that's been produced, right? They're looking at your product and your marketing material and saying, this looks great, to the point where they're thinking it's under production. But it's not always. A lot of times there's an assumption based on category if that product is under production. And so there's a couple different things that contribute to that. And not all licensees assume you have molds and that you're under production. It's their hope, right? Every company wants you to show up with full patent portfolio covering the entire universe, with molds and production ready product that the price is so low that they can sell it for millions of dollars and make all this profit, right? I mean, that's their hope. That's their pie in the sky, hope that every inventor would show up with that. But in reality, that doesn't make sense for our business model, because we as inventors, we can't overinvest in a product and then expect like this reciprocation from the market when we have no idea how it's going to work out. And so we as inventors, we're going out there presenting benefits, presenting product, presenting supporting benefits of how this contribute to potential licensees' bottom line, how it can help their customers. And so when we present in that light, they say, yes, this can help. And they may ask, do you have molds? Do you have production ready? You say, no, but I'm working on it. I'm in the process of getting there. Would you want to be a partner? Would you want to license this product and essentially take that over? And a lot of companies at that point do say yes, if they want to be that involved. Other times they don't. And so this is where we ride that fine line. And anybody that's saying, I'd love to, be a buyer of it, they may be able to connect you with their manufacturer so that their manufacturer can be your licensee. That's not always the best licensee, because then they're always relying on somebody else's distribution chain, but it gives you that shoe in. They get to have their own in-house product that they manufacture. They get a bigger margin on that. They're not just manufacturing for somebody else. And you then get your royalty. There's pluses to that, because you can get a lower royalty on higher volume. That's what happens when you license lower on the distribution chain. And I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper. So when you're licensing products, there's retailers, top line people, that's, Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, Bed Bath & Beyond, Target, all these different places. Retailer products can be licensed there. Middle bracket is brands and distributors. This is where most licensing deals happen. Bottom line is the manufacturer. So it sounds like, Dennis, what you're having is the middle line. You're presenting products to them. They say, yes, we love this, but we want to, we'd rather just sell it through our distribution chain. You can ask them to introduce you to their manufacturer. And then from their manufacturer is where you get the licensing deal. So then they can upsell into their distribution chains, where your price point's going to be lower. So your royalty rate's going to be lower, or like the actual dollars that you receive, but you would get a possibly higher volume, because this manufacturer can sell to that company and then, 4 or 5 different distributors. So Dennis, I hope that helps give you a little bit of clarity. And I know that, the path to market is not always this clear-cut vision. And it's a lot of building your wings on the way down. And so part of it is trial and error. Call a company, have conversations, see if they're interested in being the licensing partner. Oh, you're not? Okay, great. Do you have a manufacturing partner that may be interested in licensing this product and supplying you? Oh, yeah, wonderful. Introduction. And then you can have them finance the project. So Dennis, I hope that helps. I hope that kind of puts a couple pieces together for you. Christian, can you give us your successful steps to licensing a product? Heck yes. 5 steps, very simple. Research. You're building a foundation and a knowledge and understanding of your marketplace. And in that step, you're going to build your list of potential licensees, right? We're establishing market, and we're establishing if there is a market to pitch to. And then step number 2, build your marketing material, the way you're going to emotionally communicate your product. And I'm giving you like the 3-minute version of these steps. So in step 2, to break it down for you, you have an emotional connection to your product, right? Your emotional connection to your product. And what that is you think about your product when you're falling asleep, keeps you up, or it wakes you up in the middle of the night, or like you're thinking about it during the day in a way that you're like, oh my gosh, this would impact so many people. This would change their lives. This would change my life financially. And so like you have this emotions inside you, right? And those emotions eventually boil out into the real world, where you show up at webinars and ask questions, where you start to read books, you start to build prototypes, right? So those emotions inside you boil out into the real world and you start taking actions. Well, all that marketing is capturing that emotion into a sell sheet or a video or anything it is that can convey that information to another human being. That other human being sees that marketing piece and they have those same emotional response. They say, that can impact our company positively. That can get somebody excited. That can drive our bottom line. That can improve our sales. And then that individual is looking at it and saying, I could get a promotion. I could sell more product and make more money. That could impact my family, right? And so then they have that same emotional response because of your marketing material. And they go out and they start taking action in the real world, getting pricing, engaging buyers, figuring out how to bring that product into the real world. And so in step 2, we're figuring out how to communicate that product in an emotional way to change people. So remember, first, you're researching the product, figuring out competition, and figuring out who you're going to pitch to. List of 15 to 20 potential licensees. Step 2, marketing material, emotional marketing material. Step number 3, you're going to protect it, typically with a provisional patent application, but not always. And step number 3 is where you learn the rules to the game of the intellectual property and understanding how that works. Then step number 4 is pitching. This is the divider. This divides the group, the successful from the unsuccessful inventors. Everything else can be done just by hard work. This part is a part that you have to put yourself out there and get typically in an uncomfortable situation where you're putting yourself and your product out there and you can get told no. And that's why I say it separates the pack. The successful inventors, the ones that license one product and multiple products, do step number 4 very well. And so if you crush it at step number 4, I've seen and I've had students that have mediocre products that do step 4 very well and get licensing deals, and vice versa. People that have magnificent world-changing products cannot do step 4 very well and fail. They can't get their products licensed. So if you were to focus on any step to get good at, step number 4 of selling your product, then the last step, step number 5, was once you generate interest, is closing and negotiating a deal. Christian, I hope I put that in a nice tight little egg that you can kind of get a 5,000 foot view. I know I didn't break down how to do all those steps, but that would take quite a bit of time. So Christian, I hope that answered your question. Do keep them coming. I see you keep putting questions in the question box, so I appreciate that. Jump over to the other box. Martin, I have 2 product ideas. Both are in the hardware category. That is a very good thing. One of which I have developed a prototype for. Is having a working prototype an advantage? Yes, it is. Do you and your team have contacts in the hardware industry? So we do. I pitch obviously my own products, my own innovations, and I've built a team of people that kind of do it for me, right? I come up with the idea, I build out all the fun stuff, and then I pass it over to my team to pitch. And then they connect it into the industry where it needs to go. But Martin, one important part of what you mentioned in your comment that I'm pulling out as a coach that I see tons of people go through is it's very important that you have 2 products in one category. You increase your probability of licensing by quite a bit by having multiple products in a category. And so anybody else that's out there looking at, hey, I can work on projects, pick projects that are in the same category. It multiplies your probability of success by quite a bit. I don't have stats on it, but that is a huge advantage to getting your products licensed is single category inventors. So Martin, I hope that answered your question. Jump back over to the Q&A box. If a company has a submission form for product ideas on their website, would it be better to use that or try and connect with a marketing manager personally? Shannon, so companies have they have a box, right? And they want you to go jump in that box. And if you break their box, they don't like people breaking their box. But we as inventors like to break boxes because we live outside the box. And so the way that I typically handle a submission portal is I call them up and I do my normal pitch. Hi, my name is David Fido. I'm calling to see if you guys look at new product ideas. And sometimes they say, yes, we do. Go to our website, www.abccompany.com/inventor submission and send it through there. Say, okay, great. Other times they'll say, oh yeah, Bob Smith in marketing, he takes care of that. And he's the one that gets the emails from the portal. I can just pass you over to him. And so then you get a personal contact. One of the ways that I handle the submission portals, because some of the submission portals are not responded to through their websites, right? Nobody answers them. You're just submitting your great innovation to a black hole. I don't like that personally. So the way that I handle submission portals is I use it as an introduction portal. I type in my name. I let them know I'm a product developer and I've got great innovative products. And I'm wondering if anybody answers this submission. portal. And a lot of times they'll email you back and say, yes, we answered the submission portal. Send us what you got. Well, they emailed you, so you just email them back your product submission because now you're talking to a person. I don't like going through a submission portal and getting a black hole of no responses, because then it's like you feel like you put yourself out there and there's no reciprocation. So use that as a way of starting the conversation. I don't usually pitch through that, but sometimes they say, yes, we appreciate you reaching out and checking in, but we still need you to submit through the portal. And then that's when you have to say, because the submission portal usually has a submission agreement, and do read through those. The submission agreement on their portals, it means what they mean, right? It means what they're trying to say. So I've seen submission portals where they say, if you submit to it, we own your idea. We own your intellectual property. If you talk to an attorney, they might say that that can't be the case. You can't just say we own it if you submit it. But that's their intention. So if that's their intention, why are you submitting to a company like that? I had another company. This one was a little bit funny, but they said anybody who submits to this portal is agreeing to the fact that if we do license this and bring this to market with your intellectual property, your filed granted patent, we'll pay you $5,000. And I'm like, well, a patent costs 10, so why would I lose $5,000 to give it to you? And then I had another company that said, if you submit, we'll give you a hat with our company logo on it if we end up licensing your product. So it's like, those are companies not worth it. They're just going to waste your time for the most part. So do pass up on those. Read their submission agreements and make sure you try to understand them, because they're in black and white. They're serious. That's what they mean. So if they say we own it if you submit it, don't work with them. So Shannon, I hope that answered your question in the right way. Let me jump back over to the chat. 2 products in the same category equals better success. Great news. My next 2 products are in the paint field. Nice, Keith. And to expand a little bit on that, the reason that there's a higher probability of success is when you present one product to a category, right? You're spending 1 to 3 months calling, emailing, connecting, reaching out to contacts, right? You're building this Rolodex of partners. And then once you pitch one product to them, a lot of times you're starting a relationship with them, and relationships are a lot more important in the innovation field than I ever knew until I was in it actually licensing products. And what I mean by that is that these companies, they get sometimes 100 submissions a month. And what's your product to stand out, or them to be able to bet on yours over the other ones? Even though products, one has a little bit better benefit maybe than the other, or one has a little bit better design, they don't necessarily know what's going to sell better than the others. But once you've established a personal relationship and a connection, then they look at your products in a different light. And so you're able to license with a higher probability, because they know you as a person, and they can say, hey, Keith is going to be a great partner. Keith's going to be able to bring the resources that we need to help bring this product to market. And so do keep pitching in one field. It can help. Another question, Shannon, great way to handle that with the submission portals. Thank you. Sorry, Bev, I saw your note. I'll read the questions out loud a little better. Rosalie said, how can I convince someone to partner with me, and what do I do to protect my idea and vision? It depends on, are you looking for a company to license your product in terms of partnering? So I guess give me a little bit of clarity on what do you mean convince someone to partner with you? If you're looking for a potential licensee to partner with you, that's pretty easy. Follow the 5 steps and you can get in. That's a little bit misleading. It's not easy, but it's a simple process. It's just hard work to get it there. So do type in a little bit more content so that I can try to help answer that. And back over to the Q&A box. Do keep the questions coming. I appreciate, I see we've got quite a few still in the bank. What type of presentation, sorry, this is from Christian. What type of presentation do I need to put together for my pitch to a company? Christian, as I was saying in my little egg presentation, it's all about an emotional connection or emotionally moving somebody. And there's different ways that you can do that. It's not always straightforward because, excuse me, every product is different. Every product is like a person, right? And every person has different angles that they look good at. When you take a picture from the top down, your face usually looks better. It looks thinner. When you take a picture, when you get the double chin going, it doesn't look as good. And so you have to start to understand your product. And when you say what type of presentation, that's a broader question than you may think, because when you understand your product, then you understand what angle it looks good at, right? In pictures and still photographs, in video and demonstration. So like there's different ways you have to understand the benefits of your product. What I found is a lot of the time, companies really appreciate a demonstration of a prototype. And when they really like the demonstration of the prototype, you have to do a video of that product. And that's where I found a lot of my personal success is through video, through being able to pitch my product to companies with the simple demonstration of the product. And what I found through my own research was that I'm a big advocate of modeling, or like finding something that works, something that's successful, right? You find somebody that's successful at what they do, you model their success, and then you get to have that type of success in your life. And so, I've always had, coaches and other people that train me through my processes and personal development. And one thing when I was understanding marketing and how to get people emotionally excited about products was you can model something that's out there. And companies have spent billions of dollars figuring out ways to emotionally impact individuals and get them to act. And the best model right now is the as seen on TV. And the as seen on TV model, it's super interesting because they've spent billions of dollars making and selling all of these products through as seen on TV commercials. When I say as seen on TV, it's also DRTV. It's the commercial where it's in black and white and somebody's like sweeping up with a broom and trips over the broom and like flips over a table and it's like, oh no, I can't sweep. And introducing, boom, the sweep-o-matic and da-da-da-da, right? And so what they're doing emotionally inside people's head is they're setting them in an emotional state of there's a problem in your life. And that problem is impacting you. And here's how to solve that problem. And not only that, we're going to logically support that with supporting benefits. And here's how detailed that is, Christian, is that when I was starting, I watched those, I saw them, I understand modeling, look at things that are successful and replicate. I took 20 or 30 different as seen on TV commercials, and I broke them down in a spreadsheet in terms of time codes. I time coded every single transition, every single thing that happened, and there's a pattern. There's actually a time code pattern to these commercials. If you watch them at 9 to 10 seconds, they have problem to solution. So the first 9 to 10 seconds, they're showing black and white, they're showing problem. At that 9 to 10 second transition, boom, white screen, introduction of the exciting benefit of the product. It's the first product presentation. So they have that most impactful, most emotional scene or demonstration of the product. And then thereafter, they time code of supporting benefit. And from supporting benefit, then they reintroduce problem again very quickly. And so like the whole thing is a formula. You don't have to follow the formula exactly, because doing the very cheesy with the production that a lot of inventors have, it doesn't look very good. But if you show a problem in a very straightforward way, you're getting that same emotional response. And then you show that big benefit of your product and you hit them emotionally, right? They're like, oh man, our customers are having those problems. Or I'm our customer, I'm having those problems. this benefit is worth it, right? And so if you create marketing material that has a very impactful emotional response, then you get that response from companies, right? They like your product. And so I know your question was very simple. What type of presentation do I need to put together for my pitch? Well, you have to understand your product first. You have to understand how it can emotionally impact people. And then you build out from there. And a lot of times you're going to use that commercial formula to get something that impacts your potential licensee. So they reach back out and say, Christian, we're interested. We want to license this product. So that's a very complex answer or a very long answer to your very short question, but I hope it hit the nail on the head and gets you moving forward. But do type in any follow-ups if you need, Christian. Shannon. Longer question from Christian. Shannon here. If a company has a submission form, okay, we answered the first one from Shannon. So the second one from Shannon. I was just responding to an email sent by you yesterday. That is why I put together this short 2-question assessment that you can complete in just a minute to make sure I cover the specific issues. Okay, Shannon, this might be a little bit more complex of a question. This is why I put together this short 2-part assessment that you can complete in just a minute to make sure I cover the specific issues you have that's preventing you from going all out. Okay. Now I understand. As just getting prepared to start contacting companies, perhaps you could share with us what the process is once a company gives us an offer and starts negotiating. Okay. All right. Sorry, Shannon. I understand your question. It took me a little bit. Shannon says, I have no idea what the process is when dealing with a lawyer, as just getting prepared to start contacting companies. Perhaps you could share with us what the process is once a company gives us an offer and starts negotiating. Negotiating is nothing like Shark Tank. It's nothing like, and even myself had this perception of what negotiation was. And I thought that it was very hard nosed and like, can we get 7%? And they're like, no, I need 4%. And then you come back with, no, it's nothing like that, because there's multiple reasons why. The person you're usually interacting with has never negotiated a deal before. And if they have, it's usually one a year, maybe. And so they're not like seasoned negotiators. In all of my time negotiating and coaching negotiations, I've only run into one, and mind you, 170 deals, one person who understood negotiating and negotiating tactics, and we're actually using them with a student. So that's a super low probability that you're up against a seasoned negotiator. More than likely, you're up against somebody who's negotiated 1 or maybe 2 deals. And so they don't necessarily forecast or like think forward through the process to be strategically trying to negotiate. So what I tell inventors is inventors are actually, the inventors that I'm working with in coaching are actually at an advantage, because this is what I do day in and day out. And I understand the tactics, processes, and procedures, the things to ask, the right times to ask, and the right tone and inflection to use to ask this question so that we get the answers at the right time. To give you an example of that, when I was trying to license one of my products, I was asking good questions, right? And so I was on the phone with them, very first call. I was asking them, have you guys licensed the product before? They said yes. I said, what kind of, how did that go? And they said, oh, it went great. We're still have this great product. We're still making money. The inventor's making the royalties. I said, great. Well, what did that deal look like? And they started explaining the deal process to me. And so right then and there, I'm just having a conversation as a human being, but I'm also getting information that helps me build my understanding of how I'm going to work with them in the future. And through that, I got to ask a question: what was the royalty rate of that deal? And the industry that I was in, they're usually like 3 to 5%, 7% in certain circumstances. So like in my mind, in my world, I'm going to ask for a 7% royalty when it gets to be time. And so when I asked him what the royalty rates of the previous deals was, he said 12%. I said, great, right? But I was like, oh my God, right? I was like, mouth wide open, all excited, like that's amazing. And so 3 or 4 weeks later, when we start actually talking about royalty rates, I asked them, or they asked me what royalty rate I wanted. I said, well, can we do a 12% royalty? They said yes. And so like asking and knowing and understanding the right questions to ask is part of that process. And so, but it unfolds over months. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that like, it's not this like one call where you're negotiating the future of this product for the rest of your life. And it's more like you're not, it's very soft, it's very friendly, and you have a conversation with them. They reach out and they say, hey, Shannon, we're interested in your product. We'd like to know and understand more. You set up a phone call, you get on a call, you have a conversation, and it goes like this. Shannon, we like the product. We can see a future for it at ABC company. Do you have a patent? Do you have a prototype, right? They start asking you questions. Well, in turn, you ask them questions. Have you worked with inventors before? Have you licensed products before? What's your process to getting a product to market? What's your timelines? So when you're asking these questions, you're finding out how they work. And in that, you get to ask them questions about how their previous deals worked. What was their deal structure? And then when it comes time, sometimes 3 or 4 weeks, sometimes 6 months down the road, you start talking about a royalty rate. And so then you ask them, what royalty rate works for you guys? They're going to put the bottom of the frame on. When the bottom of the frame goes on, that means it can only go up from there. So they say, can we do a 5% royalty? I say, great, I'd be interested in understanding what that means. Most inventors don't know to ask that because they right away snap to, how do I negotiate higher? But if you understand, if they offer you 5% and that's $1 million a year, and then you come back trying to negotiate higher, they might be offended, right? So you have to ask the right questions at that point. When they say a 5% offer, you can say, all right, well, what kind of sales volumes are we looking at? And what retail price point are we looking at? So if they say we can sell 10,000 units a month, and it's a $10 product or a $20 product, we wholesale at 10. Sorry to throw a lot of numbers at you. Retails at 20, wholesales at 10. Your royalty rate is based off the wholesale. So you're looking at 5%. So you're looking at 50 cents per unit. And then they're looking at 10,000 units a month. So then you get to calculate how much the deal is worth to you, because 2%, 1%, 20%, you as the inventor don't necessarily care. You care more about is how much money is this worth to me? Because if they give you 20% royalty, but it's only $1,000 a year and you have to have patents, then I wouldn't do it personally, because then I'm going to be spending more in patents than I would make in my licensing agreement. And so the negotiation process is very simple, because what it is, it's two people coming to an agreement and putting it on paper. In execution, it's not as simple, because you're dealing with a lot of emotions. You're dealing with people that don't necessarily negotiate deals on both sides on a regular basis. So people are, a lot of the times walking on eggshells. The company might want to ask you a question like, what royalty rate do you want? But the person that's taking care of it might not have negotiated a deal before. So they're not necessarily comfortable asking those questions. And so it puts them in this situation where it doesn't get asked and it needs to be asked. So Shannon, I hope that kind of like nails down a little bit. I can't really put it in the nice little egg that I was the other question of what's the process like, because every process is different. If I were to put it in an egg, negotiation goes like this. You send them a product, they come back and say, we're interested. You have a phone call. The phone call is essentially a get to know you and a how can we work together. Once you have that call, you usually set out some timelines, some goals, some things that you want to get done. You go through that process. You start to get things done. They start to understand if it's a product that they can license and take to market. Once they understand all of that, then they start to ask you, what royalty rate are you comfortable with? And you can answer them, freely, give them the information that they need. And then once everybody is satisfied with kind of the agreement that's been discussed, it gets captured onto paper or boiled down into paper form. They send it to you via email. Some terms change. They weren't communicated to the right parties, and it's not something to get upset about. It's just that they didn't get communicated properly. And then they send that contract to you, you review it, you put notes on it, you send it back to them, they put their notes on it, they change it, and you both come to an agreement to say, all right, we're both happy with it, and everybody signs. That is in essence how it works. That's obviously a lot of details are missing. We don't have probably the couple hours it would need to really detail that out, but I hope that answers your question and gives you a little bit of confidence so that you're at least pitching your product and getting yourself in a situation where you can negotiate a deal. Keith, next question. Would you speak about your PPA writing software? Of course, Keith. So I created this software with my patent attorney. So we worked on it together, and I think that that is an important aspect. There's a lot of patent writing software out there that's been written by attorneys without the input of inventors. And so from the perspective of inventor, we need to be able to answer our own questions. If you're given a question that's written by an attorney, a lot of times inventors have a difficult time answering that. And so we work together very hard on boiling down the process of creating a provisional patent application. We put together a software, and the software essentially works like a TurboTax or an H&R Block software, if you're familiar. We ask a question, something as simple as write your title in the box. But then we have a video explaining how titles work, why titles are the way that they are, what it takes to write a good title. And so we essentially break down that and give you 15 examples of good titles so that you can take the information in the video, take the examples, and take your product and then type in a good title. And we do that for every component of the provisional patent application. I think we've broken it down into 5 core steps. And then we do, the main part, we teach you how to make good drawings, how to number the drawings, and you input them all into the software that we built. Once you're done inputting it, you hit submit. The system creates the entire document and sends it right to your email address. You take that document, then file it with the USPTO. And so it's simplified the process for you. You can then take that document and get it reviewed by your patent attorney if you'd like, or you can submit it direct to the patent office to get yourself patent pending. So Keith, I hope that kind of gives you an idea of how the PPA software works. And Susan wrote in the box, Susan, oh yeah, I know Susan. I've used Dave's PPA software program and have found it to be very helpful. Thank you, Susan. And so Christian, another question, can you explain the difference between a regular royalty rate and a know-how royalty rate? Nothing, depending on how you negotiate. And I guess you'd have to fill me in on a regular royalty rate, because I guess I get a regular royalty rate on my know-how. Are you talking about 2 separate royalty rates for like a patent and then one for existing knowledge? I guess just expand on that question for me. I usually get one royalty rate, and it doesn't matter if there's a patent or not. I have gotten deals, I guess I can say, that are 7%. And if I don't have a patent granted within 3 years, it drops to 3% because then it would be considered kind of know-how. But then you just get your patent granted and you get your 7%. So Christian, do give me a little bit more on that, and I hope I can help you. I'm going to jump over into the chat and try to knock out a couple questions there. Okay, there's just a little bit of chat going on, so let me. I joined late, Rosalina, so I just got the last 2 steps. I have a huge product idea. I have not seen anything like it. I did not find anything on Google, Schmoogle, or okay. I got to read this because it's kind of funny. She said, I have not seen anything like it. I did not find anything like it on Google, Moogle, or Schmoogle. And so I checked government sites, nothing. I could most likely buy a printer and create a prototype, but I would have to hire a CAD guy or gal and do a non-disclosure, non-compete, whatever there. But say I just approach with a drawing. How would I find the right people to approach? You just answered one of the questions. How to find the right people to approach? Give them a call. Call the companies. So the way I build my list is I find my competing products. I go to the store where I feel it would sell. So if you have a hammer, I go to Home Depot, I go to Lowe's, I even go to Walmart because they sell hammers too, and I stand at the shelf. I take a picture of the shelf in its entirety, and then I pick up each different company, right? Craftsman, Husky, all these different tool companies, and I take pictures of the packaging of the product, and that's how I start building my list. I'm just going to call their 1-800 number in general and ask them who to speak to about new product innovation. That's who you're going to call, is just call the companies in general. You're not looking for a marketing manager. You're not looking for anybody specific. If you can't get a hold of anybody specific, and see, this is where people will fail because they'll listen to the second part of this advice, but not the first. When I say call the company and ask, they're like, oh, I'm uncomfortable just asking. I want to have a specific person I call. And so then they'll just listen to the second part of advice, and they'll waste 3 months doing this. They'll just go and find a person to call specifically. And so if you can't get a hold of anybody at the company by calling and saying, hey, I'm a product developer, I'm calling to see if you look at new products, then go to LinkedIn and find a marketing manager. Last resort is do that. So that's how I would find my list of companies, and that's who I'd find the individual to talk to. Keith said, yes, thanks for the PPA explanation, of course. Let me jump back over. I've got some questions. So we've got 9 minutes left. I'm probably going to extend it a little bit if that's all right with everybody that's sticking around, because I've got, I think, 9 more questions in the box, and I don't think I can do 9 questions in 9 minutes, but I will try. So do type in your questions. I'm going to kind of cap the questions off here in a second. Bev, I've been trying to follow up with a company via email. Originally, they told me to send my sell sheet to the team. I haven't been able to get any responses yet, but I see a couple of their team on LinkedIn, and one is now my connection. Would it be appropriate for me to try to follow up via that connection on LinkedIn? And if so, what would I say? Yes. So do follow up through their channels that they've already opened to you. So do email them, call the team, whoever it is that's working on it. Try to reach out that way, and then start connecting with them via LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, you don't start out business. You got to start out almost personal, not like too personal, but like you want to keep it very straightforward. So you connect with, and I'd keep connecting with people on LinkedIn to see more of what or more of the team and be more connected with the team. Because when you have 20 connections with a company, and then the person that you're working with is connecting with you, they say, oh, Bev is connected with these 20 people that I know. Man, that's awesome. She's already in, right? So whenever you start working with a company, just start connecting with everybody in the company. That's what I do. If you go and everybody friend me on LinkedIn, you'll see like I've got all these connections throughout companies, and that is the best way to get started, is to just connect with everybody in the company. And so, yes, Bev, reach out, just say, hi, this is Bev. I had, submitted this product, just reaching out to see if we can connect, right? You're not asking for an answer, but you are giving them context to who you are and why you're connecting. We're not trying to like beat them up and get answers. So do reach out on LinkedIn, but keep it simple, keep it straightforward. Don't look for answers, but look for connection, and see if they need any more resources from you to get a good answer to you. I hope that helps. Dennis, I know you said there's no science behind this, but I have noticed most potential licensees all reply at the same time or day after being patient and waiting for their reply. Why do you think that is? Okay, so Dennis, it's funny. Like, you can reach out for 3 straight weeks and nobody responds. And then one Friday afternoon, everybody says, hey, I'm gonna reach back out. And I don't know what it is, but like, I feel like that happens to me all the time. Is I go through all of this process reaching out, following up, and then one day everybody answers their phone. I can't tell you why, but it's like you're swinging the sledgehammer and you finally break through that brick wall and everybody comes back to you. So you don't know what day it's going to be, so you got to just keep swinging. So do keep reaching out. I can't tell you why it is that everybody just starts to respond to you once you've been swinging the sledgehammer long enough. So Dennis, I hope that answers your question. Christian asks, what is your cost for coaching? Christian, I've got a couple different programs that I offer on my website. And so if you want to check out, I'll put a link in the chat for you to check out. So I have a couple different programs if you're interested in coaching different levels. I really am set up to help people through the process. I'm here for people all the way from their very beginning stages into negotiation and being able to help you through that. So do check out the website. I think everything's pretty reasonably priced. So do check it out. If you have any questions though, email me at david@InventTribe and we can connect there and talk more about coaching if you'd like. Michael had a question. How does one validate foreign funding offers with the consultant and sponsor to the banks for small business loans or grants? Michael, that's something I would ask. Oh man, I'm forgetting her name, but she is a funding expert. And Michael, I believe I have your email address because I think we emailed here 2 days ago. And so I will send you her, Kedma O-U-G-H, O-U-A-G-H, Kedma though. And she does great on funding. Thing is, I don't know much about funding because I don't get funding for my projects. I get them licensed and the companies that I license to fund them. So I'm not necessarily ever out there looking for funding because the companies that I license my product to do all the funding for me. And so I have a lot less experience in that arena. And that's why I'm saying I'd reach out to a funding expert like Kedma O to understand how she can help you or she can show you how to validate those funds and how you should be working with foreign funding opportunities. Francis from LinkedIn said, which one should I show first, the sell sheet or the video, or do I have to send them both at the same time? Francis, my experience is don't send them both at the same time. And so the way that I do it, right? I gotta break it down. Is when I was understanding how to license my products. If you guys have been with me the whole time, you'll know that I'm somewhat analytical in my testing because I broke down all the sales videos because I want to understand how they work and where they're successful and why. And so I went out and I took one of my products and I did a test. I did an A/B test. Essentially, I took sell sheet and video. I got more no's from sell sheet and video combination than I did just video. It's not a very good idea to send both, and the reason is because you get companies only have time to click on one piece of marketing. They're either going to click on your sell sheet or your video. They have to be impressed by that one to click on the other. You don't want to send both because your sell sheet a lot of the times is a weaker piece of marketing material, and you're going to get them to click on your sell sheet. They're going to look at it and say, this is not for us. Email the inventor back. Thank you for sending this, but it's not a right fit. You can look at your analytical data on your video and see that they didn't even watch it. So I always lead with the video. If they want follow-up information, I send a sell sheet. But do try to just send videos. They're more impactful typically, and they get a higher percentage of yeses than nos for my tests that I've run. Francis, I hope that helps. Anne had a question. Thanks, David. This has been a great insight and really helpful. 156 here, and not quite make it to the end. Thank you, Anne, for tuning in. I know it's sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning elsewhere, so I do truly appreciate you tuning in. and do have a good night if you guys are, anywhere else on the globe. Michael said, if a company wants an exclusive to your product, what should I do? Say, heck yes, let's do this deal then. But I guess it depends on, your position personally. Sometimes people don't want an exclusive. I have an exclusive on most of my products. I guess it depends on your motivation. A lot of people have this motivation that they're like, well, I want to license to 10 different companies. Well, company number one is not going to end up licensing from you because the opportunity for you to go license it to 9 other people. And to dig in deep on the reasons why is that the reason companies innovate is because there's a higher margin of profit when you have an innovation that hits the market right. And so what that means is when they have a product and it's new and innovative, they can sell it for a higher margin and make more money. But as soon as competition comes out, that might be driving that price down. So if you go to a company and say, hey, company, will you license my product, spend 6 figures on bringing it to market, but right away you're going to have competition. They'll say, no, thank you, on to the next product. And so that's why companies want an exclusive. A lot of times you can negotiate it down to like a 3 or 4 year exclusive. So they get this time frame of exclusivity that they get that higher margin to pay off the molds, pay off all the things that they've invested in to get them to the point where they're making money. And then they're allowed to get competition on the market. But you're going to have a hard time licensing a new innovation without giving the exclusive out. So do be open to the exclusive, but if you can negotiate a deal where it doesn't have the exclusive, that's great, because then you can bring on more partners to distribute your product. It's like having more rental properties, right? You get more rental income or licensing income. Shannon said that's what you had sent me. I understood that now. I thought it was a question. I apologize. Michael said, how does someone step into an industry that is closed loop billionaires? That's another funding question. I'd reach out to Kedma on that. And I can send you her contact information. Shannon says, great info, thanks. Back to the lawyer. Say we get through the negotiation. What is left for the lawyer to do? Great question, Shannon. I always have an attorney review. So what I will do personally is I negotiate the deals myself. I work with the company. I work through all of the terms so that both parties are happy. And that's the biggest thing. Both parties have to be happy. I'm never going to say don't use an attorney. I use an attorney on my deals. But I will say a lot of the times if you introduce the attorney to negotiate, they introduce their attorney to negotiate. And usually when 2 attorneys are negotiating, they both are wanting to win, 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 and not necessarily to make a business compromise to make it work for both parties, but just to show that they can win, win, win. And it's not always the best case. And so that's why I always try to negotiate the deals myself. And I'm not saying every attorney's like that. Attorneys are great people. They contribute a lot of value to inventors and our deals and all these different things. And so they're very useful, but you have to know and understand how to use them in the right situations. And so if you negotiate your own deal, you want to cross your T's and dot your I's. I had a deal once. This was early on in my career. I had negotiated, I put all the terms together. I presented it to my attorney and he said, love the deal, but there's one point that puts you into a lot of liability. And it was an instance where if there was a lawsuit and it had to do with the product liability, so it wasn't even with the product or like the patents or anything like that. It's if somebody like choked on it and their, God forbid their child died or something and they wanted to sue people, I was liable. And my attorney's like, you have no control over that. And you have no control over how that would, play out. And so you can't be liable for that. And that was a really good point. And I, early on in my career, I didn't see that. And so that's why I always have an attorney review, because he caught that. I went back to the company and said, hey, I know we had agreed on all these terms. I had my attorney review it. And he said, there's too much liability here for me. Can we restructure this? Because this is not really a thing that I can control. They're like, yep, no problem. And so we just made a quick change to the contract. and they were okay with it, and we moved forward. So so it worked out really well. So do have your attorney review at the end if you've negotiated a good deal. I'm going to take a look through to see if we have any more in the questions. As I'm looking through, I did want to let everybody know we're doing a webinar on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So same time, but on Sunday. It's a live webinar, and I'm going to break down the 5 steps in much more detail. So you heard me put the 5 steps into a small little egg, and in 3 minutes, I'm going to spend a whole hour breaking down those steps and showing the process that I use, the process that I teach. So if you're interested in licensing, do join. I'm going to put a link in the chat for anybody if they wanted to get into that webinar. So do click that link. Let me keep scrolling through to make sure I did not miss anybody's question. And anybody type in any questions if they have them so that I can help them out. Sorry, I've got a couple boxes open that I've got to work through. Does not look like it. So, and those that can't get to the chat in here, it's inventtribe.com/inventor-royalty-machine. And Shannon, thank you so much. I appreciate, you said thank you for the info and look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Appreciate that. So, and Susan, she said, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody coming out for all the great questions. God, I think we had like 25, maybe 30 questions in an hour. So I'm glad we got to get to all those. So I appreciate everybody coming. And so everybody have a wonderful night. And I hope to see you all on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And please leave the link for coaching. Christian, if you want to check in the chat, we can send you the link for coaching to just say it to you. It's go to inventtribe.com/packages, and that will show you where all the coaching is. Also, you can email me, David@inventtribe, and we can chat about it and figure out how to get you moving forward. So Faith, thank you for coming out. Rosalie, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name right, but thank you so much for coming out. Bev, also, thank you for coming out. Martin, everybody, thank you so much. And do have a wonderful night, and let's go close some deals, and I'll see everybody on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great night.